What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my temporary abode in Nashville. A good friend of mine from New York, her parents are letting me use their townhouse while they are in Europe so I can kind of go explore some apartments and figure out where I can actually live in this city. So I'm just filming on their kitchen island and I liked the lighting here, so here we are. Today we're here to talk about Luke Combs' third full-length album, Growin Up.
I'd have a Friday night crowd in the palm of my hand.
I know this album's been out for a couple weeks. Obviously, I've been moving. That was chaotic. Fortunately, I've had a lot of opportunity in the car or in the moving truck to listen to this album, but this video still might be a little less organized than my usual stuff. But who really cares? Now, obviously, Luke Combs is one of the biggest stars in the genre. His last 5 years have been nothing short of remarkable. He is, in fact, now touring in stadiums, playing to crowds of sometimes like 70,000 people at a time. His first album, This One's For You, and his second album, What You See Is What You Get. Both of those had deluxe versions, and both of those are multi-platinum, and like everything he touches turns to gold and goes #1. And I think the question coming into this third album is, would Luke be able to maintain momentum, or was the heat going to wear off? Because definitely a narrative has been forming around him in the last couple years where people are starting to say, man, some of this music is sounding a little too similar to me. I want to hear some evolution from you. And just looking at the album sales for the first couple weeks this album's been out, I feel like that question is sort of reflected in those. I mean, it started with 74,000 units moved in its first week, of which 28,000 were pure album sales. And that's the best debut for a country album all year so far. Ahead of Zach Bryan, who did about 70,000. But you gotta remember, that album was 34 songs long and Luke's was 12, which means there was a lot more repeat listens to Luke's tracks in order for that number to be that high. That said, that number was less than half of the number of units moved at the start of What You See Is What You Get. And granted, everyone's album sales are down this year. Like literally everyone not named Morgan Wallen. It's kind of like a rough looking first week when you compare Carrie Underwood or Maren Morris or Luke Combs' first week starts to what they were doing a few years ago. So something's in the water, or not in the water, as it were. I didn't mean to make a Carrie Underwood reference.
Must be something in the water.
But at the same time, then, he's playing stadiums, so it's like he's still got a ton of momentum, but maybe just less people in general are listening to music. I don't know, but it does feel like this is a slight downturn slightly in excitement for a new Luke album. But I'm really not here to talk about the monetary success of the album, rather the success of its music, of its lyrics, and so let's get into that. Oh, actually, before we start, I want to show you one of the strangest pieces of swag I've ever been sent to promote an album, which was this. It came in the little package that they sent out to people. This I thought was a cassette tape. It certainly looks like one, but here you can see it. It says Side B, Side A, and yet, as you can see, there's no tape. This isn't actually a cassette tape. It's a Bluetooth speaker. So if you've ever been wanting to listen to your music on a cassette-shaped Bluetooth speaker, you can do that. Let's just choose a Luke song. I mean, it's like cool, I guess. It's just so weird. I'm grateful to have it. This is a strange artifact that one day people will be like, what is that? And I'll be like, I don't know why they sent this out, but now I have it if you want to listen to music on this.
Now I'm only gonna be your man.
As far as what I think about the album from a critical standpoint, I would say it is good, not great. And my own reaction to this album kind of confuses me, if I'm being honest, because I like every song. You play any one of the songs of the 12 that are on this album, and I think, I actually think that's a good song. But together, as a unit, it is somehow less than the sum of its parts, and it leaves me wanting a little bit more. I think the sound of this album is excellent. I think it delivers in all the ways that we've come to expect Luke Combs to deliver musically. It's got a kind of neo-traditional feel. There's not a lot of synthetic textures on the album. You actually hear all of the instruments, and I think you hear the instruments more on this record than any other time. I don't think the band has ever sounded better or had more to do than it has on Growin Up. On the Other line has really cool, unusual guitar work. On Call Me, you can hear mandolin all through the background.
Call me crazy,
On Ain't Far From It, there's really cool steel work and piano that gives it a real honky-tonk feel.
Every jaw in the joint. When she flips
On Better Back When, you get a guitar that literally mimics the vocal melody.
could have passed through the grass, yelling, kiss my ass.
And throughout, you get real drum textures, real fat guitar licks, which really play well with Luke's booming voice. I definitely think sometimes the sound of some songs is pretty similar to others. It's why moments like Outrunning Your Memory, the duet with Miranda Lambert, really feel refreshing in the context of this album. They just breathe a lot more, they feel lighter.
Outrunning your memories like.
And it's not always kind of a mid-tempo, rock-influenced, straightforward country song. It's the lyrical content and storylines of the songs that I think leave me wanting something more with this album. Growin Up doesn't have the clearest through line. It's not one of those albums like Sour by Olivia Rodrigo where every single song is about a breakup, or kind of like Raised by Hailey Whitters where most of the album is about her hometown. This is an album that is about growing up, but that kind of encompasses a lot of life experiences. So it doesn't feel necessarily very focused. It feels like a collection of archetypal country songs done well. Any Given Friday Night is one of your like we know how to get down in the country and party type songs. The Kind of Love We Make is one of your we know how to get down and have sex with each other songs. Middle of Somewhere is a song about appreciating small town life and kind of in the same vein as Jason Aldean's Flyover States of just
Just at the middle of somewhere.
of pushing back on the idea that the middle of nowhere isn't worth thinking about. And in that way, I think a lot of the track list is reminiscent of other songs. You could say the same thing about On the Other Line, which I actually think is kind of a jam, and I think it's funny, but it is a song kind of like Brad Paisley's I'm Gonna Miss Her.
No telling what I might catch today.
That doesn't mean they're unsuccessful. Hear me when I say that. It just means sometimes they're really reminiscent of themes that you've heard before. Now, one of the ones that I kind of think is the most derivative storyline, but is also the most successful of the derivative storylines, is one called Better Back When.
Those were some good times. Those were the best nights.
This is a song that is playing into nostalgia about how life seemed better back when, but I feel like what makes it special is A, the specificity and the imagery in the verses. I mean, listen to this whole verse about going to a Kenny Chesney concert. Gravel lot spot by the Porta-Johns, about a quarter mile from the door. I worked 3 weeks for a pair of cheap seats. The here never wanted nothing more. We were feeling that buzz from a summertime love and a bottle tucked in a boot. It's crazy to think that looking back now, but back then we never knew. And then that brings me to B. What also makes this song great is the little line before the refrain. He says, it probably wasn't, but it seemed a little better back when. I love that line because it acknowledges how our memory tricks us and how, you know, it might have just been a regular pedestrian upbringing. It might have just been a normal growing up, but geez, I remember it fondly. Speaking of memory, I really like the duet with Miranda Lambert called Outrunning Your Memory. You know, I haven't heard Luke and a woman do a duet together, and I think it's really cool. Miranda's writing is definitely all over this with the images of the double yellow lines, even the specific city name drop of San Antone. I guess she couldn't name like Nacogdoches or whatever weird city, or Waxahachie like she would do in her own writing on a Luke record. She had to go with something simpler, San Antone, but still, that's just so how she writes, and it's a song about being on the move and on the run and trying to get away from a painful breakup memory. I think it really works, and like I said, I feel like it breathes in the context of a lot more rocking of a record otherwise. One that I don't hear anyone talk about except me, but I just love it, is the song Call Me.
You're gonna call me crazy.
I think that song has such an infectious hook to it, and I enjoy the flip of how he's imagining all the things he's gonna get called. Still, at the end of the day, when you want me, you're gonna call me. So you can call me whatever you want for now. I think Used to Wish I Was is a really strong track, and it's so the essence of Luke Combs.
I used to wanna hit him like Chip or Dead, but I swung it just a little too slow.
I've talked a lot about this, especially in my first kind of big deep dive video on him, about how he is so relatable, about how things are never going so perfectly for Luke. And I feel like this song is a great example of that. Not feeling ashamed of his like a little bit averageness and how he used to want to be some kind of like big, jock, but he's more comfortable kind of in his own skin now.
I'm just a North Carolina good old boy, boys.
Although I definitely feel like he's mined that narrative on the last few records, and I think as he now enters this new world of fatherhood, because his wife, Nicole, recently had a baby, I'm super excited to see how that affects his writing, and I would love to just get something that feels a little more personal, relevant to his life right now, going into future records. That's what you want as a fan. You want to kind of be on that journey with them, and there is that weird, mysterious fusion of the personal life and the artistic life that it's probably uncomfortable, but it's also a reality of being a fan of an artist. My other favorite song is probably the one they chose as the current single, The Kind of Love We Make. It just sounds like a Brooks and Dunn song to me. There are a couple writing tropes that I don't think are the strongest on the record. Stuff like just doing what you're doing on the current single. Going, Going, Gone, I think is gorgeous sounding, but it is one of those songs that's like a long list of analogies or similes or whatever that I have been talking about recently.
Like a runaway southbound train, like an Arizona desert rain.
There's nothing just quite as weird as something like When It Rains It Pours, and that's really what I'm just hoping for in the future. And I should say, this album cover where you get half of Luke's face, I'm imagining, although he has said he's not doing a deluxe album, I'm guessing we're getting a companion album that's going to be a bunch more songs. It'll be the other half of his face, and it'll be called Getting Old. I just have to imagine that because he has this demo that everyone talks about called Growing Up and Getting Old, and we only have half his face, and I'm just saying, that's what I bet. I bet there's going to be a whole other half of that bar, and he's going to be in the middle when you put the two covers together. And, if that takes away some magic in the future, I'm sorry, but I'm not the first person who has said this out loud. But yeah, all the other ones I haven't even mentioned, I'll read them off the tape. Doing This, a very strong song, and it's one full of gratitude. Any Given Friday Night, it's a party jam. I can kind of take it or leave it. I think On the Other Line is actually a kind of cool rocker. That's one that I think is one of the top tracks. Tomorrow Me, we've talked about on the channel before. Middle of Somewhere, that's probably the main one that I kind of skip. To me, it's a weird feeling of I actually really agree with the sentiment of the song, and I feel like it's a little bit pandering at the same time. So yeah, just overall favorites, The Kind of Love We Make, Call Me, Used to Wish I Was, and maybe if I had to do one more, it would either be Outrun Your Memory or Better Back When. Yeah, I even as I'm saying all this out loud, it feels so weird to actually like all of these songs, and yet to kind of be like, as an album, but I think you all might actually agree. I put up a poll on my community page here on YouTube, got almost 7,000 votes, and asked how y'all were feeling. These are the results. 15% of people said they loved it, but 37% said it's good, and 37% said meh. And I think I would be in the it's good category. It definitely feels good to me. Only a few people really didn't like the album. For the most part, it sounds like everyone else also thought it's pretty good. I'll read you a couple of the top comments. Spoons and Song says, it's not a bad album, I'm just missing some stuff like Better Together or Even Though I'm Leaving. Like there's some good songwriting and sonically it's good. It's just a little one note to me personally. I loved Middle of Somewhere and Call Me. I don't know if I can forgive the line, keep doing what you're doing in The Kind of Love We Make though, Go get your merch, that's what I'm saying, just doing what we do.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Blake says, I personally think it's a banger of an album. None of the songs missed, in my opinion. I agree with that sentiment. Is it Dark Side of the Moon or Led Zeppelin? No, but I had no problems with any of the songs, and I've been repeating them all weekend. Someone named Pierre Delecto, LOL, said, I'm worried Luke isn't dynamic enough. I hate a lot of Morgan Wallen songs, but the dude is at least trying to keep things fresh. I don't want to feed into the random Luke versus Morgan narrative.
Who's the number one country music star in the world right now?
Oh, man. I mean, it's me or Wallen for sure, I think.
Ooh.
But I do agree. Like, there aren't peaks and valleys. There's not a song that I'm, like, enraged by, but there's also not one that feels so fresh. And so, yeah, I definitely feel on the same page as those comments. I think if I had to give this album a score, I think I'm at, like, a 6.5. And I'm probably grading Luke harshly because he's one of my favorite artists. And I'm one of those people that is harder on people that I love than I am on people that I don't really care about. But like he says in the song Better Back When, time adds a little shine. And I think moving over the past 2 weeks, having heard this album a bunch of times now, I'm like, man, these songs are better than they hit me when I first encountered them as a collection. 6.5 out of 10 is not a bad score. Don't be mad at me. I'm trying to not allow myself to give 7s all the time. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments down below. I hope the sound on this video is good because I'm recording into a big echoey kitchen, but wow. Thank you to the people letting me use this house. You know who you are, and now your house is in a YouTube video. Dun dun dun. Okay, bye.